Not quite a birth year, but whiskey that's as old as me for under £100 is going to be something I find very hard to say no to. Hi there, my name's Lewis and welcome to the Neckpour. This is the whiskey review channel where I give you my thoughts and opinions on a particular bottle of whiskey, from the Neckpour all the way down to the Dregs. You join me here today for the Neckpour of another bottle that I picked up on Islay, another independent from the Indy Whisky Night, and this one is a 34-year-old Cambus from Woodrows of Edinburgh. This is a single grain whiskey from Cambus, one of the big sort of powerhouse grain distilleries, big blend filler, but I am quite partial to that kind of softer grain character, and having a little dram of this, potentially one of the drams of the night for me, really enjoyed it, to the point I was definitely happy to bring one home. And again, if you're looking comparative with malts, you're not going to get anything like this age for a similar price. We're fully natural here, non-filtered natural colour, and look how beautiful and light that is. I'll cut that a bit of footage in there of the up close of this in with that. But this has been entirely used in the second fill puncheon. They don't say what was in the puncheon first. Could have been sherry, could have been bourbon, could have been just plain virgin oak that this has been matured in. But second fill, and that first fill must have been in there for a pretty long time. But yeah, puncheons, for those of you that don't know, are pretty big barrels, just a shade smaller than a sherry butt usually, but a shorter, fatter barrel typically, and often have thicker staves. They're barrels that are designed for much more long-term maturation. So they're super thick. They are very leak resistant. So they're designed to hold spirit for a very long time, holding ABV and holding bulk volume. This one is at 52%. It is curator's cut, as they say on the bottle here. And after chatting with them as to what that means, it means it's not cask strength. They said this one was very strong when it came out of the cask, and very hot with it, and it just needed that little bit of water to get it down there. Obviously, 52% is still a damn good strength. You know, it's not super low. They've not watered it down to 40 to get as many bottles out of it as they could. They've kept it as high as they could while making it as drinkable as possible, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get this poured. I'll give it a moment to sit in the glass and we'll talk through it together. Sometimes I really struggle with those kind of pull-off tops, but that one wasn't so bad. But yeah, let's have a little listen to the cork. Pretty insipid cork pop there. Not much of a pop, more of a just a pull out. But yeah, let's pour ourselves a little dram. Again, the colour for something that's as old as it is just incredible. And yeah, this one is, as I say, 34 years old, which is pretty incredible given the colour that it is. Distilled on, well, put into wood. They don't actually give a date of distillation. They give the into wood date, is what they call it on here, at the 29th of November 91. So almost exactly 3 months before I was born, and bottled on the 14th of April. One of 275 bottles here, which, yeah, given the cask size, it probably lost about half of its litres over 34 years. It's not a bad return on investment at all, is it? And yeah, from Cambus, so this is technically a lowland single grain, if you want to count the regions for grain. A lot of people don't. But yeah, just outside Stirling is where Cambus is. Having a little look in the glass, wonderfully light. Nowhere near as leggy as a malt, because it is much more stripped out of it during the distillation process. Typically distilled to a lot stronger is grain whiskey, because it can go, instead of being through a pot still, it goes through a column still, and you can get right up into the sort of mid-90s in terms of what's coming off the still that you can water down before you barrel. Still got a bit of legs, but yeah, nothing, not sticky at all. Very light. And perhaps one of the reasons this appealed to me so much when I was on Islay is this is such a sort of counterpoint to those heavy, oily, peaty whiskies. You know, I'm expecting it to be much lighter, much more soft. Some people say grain's a little bit one-dimensional, but if it's done well, I certainly don't think it always has to be. But yeah, that's enough chatting, I think. Let's get this up to the nose. Plenty of wood on the nose, but almost like a really clean bit of driftwood on the beach, like a bit of wood that's been baked dry in the sun. It's not at all sort of shavings, it's not at all burnt wood. It's super dry, super clean wood, but no sort of oil left in it, nothing like that. It's just a really, lovely, dry, clean wood. I get quite a bit of orange peel on the nose. There's still a tingle of alcohol there, despite being watered down. I can feel in my nose that is up above 50%. I might even have guessed, if I was blindfolded, that might have been above 55. It's not too hot to stay in there, but you certainly can feel it, that's for sure. And then there's a lovely, richer, kind of smoother note that's almost like coconut milk, perhaps, I would say, to that. Or coconut cream. It's creamy. And yeah, it certainly reminds me of, coconuts, I think. But yeah, very inviting nose for someone that likes grain. Again, I think that slight alcohol prickle, it's not the deepest nose, it's not the darkest nose, it's super light, it's super approachable. I think to someone that likes grain whiskey, this does everything a good grain whiskey should do. To someone that doesn't like grain whiskey, it's probably doing all the things that they don't like about grain. Like, it's an interesting sort of counterpoint. But to me, that's cracking. That wood totally changes on the palate. To me, on the palate, that's starting to be a little bit pencil shavings, a little bit saw through wood, a little bit running a bandsaw or a jigsaw, something like that. And it's that smell of those really fine particles getting up into the air. But very clean, not at all heavy, not at all oily, very clean. Again, underneath all that, lots and lots of damp tobacco and that kind of almost heat that tobacco gives on the smell. If you know what I mean, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you don't, you won't. And then underneath all of that, there's a real kind of desserty thing there. And to me, it's like white chocolate. It's like eating a bar of white chocolate. Yeah, white chocolate, wood, and tobacco, I think, are my main sort of descriptors on the palate. Again, that alcohol does hit you. First sip, second sip. Now I'm on to the third. It's much calmer. And there is plenty of sweetness to this. A little bit of spice as well on the palate. Not super defined what it is, whether it's sort of chili, whether it's pepper, but there is just a little bit of spice that's probably amplified by that alcohol burn slightly. But yeah, a very pleasant palate. Very pleasant. And the finish, we're going through, again, lots of sort of traditional woody flavours. So cream, plenty of cream, but not super thick, rich whipped cream. We're talking a lighter, like a pouring cream, almost as light as cream can be. There's still a bit of saccharine notes to this. There's a bit of icing sugar, which usually icing sugar is something I only get on new make. So really interesting to get out something that's this old. Alongside that, I'm getting a little bit of, again, that same kind of spice, but it's almost like biting into a spice in the middle of a meal, like popping a peppercorn or a chili seed or something like that. It's like a real, like, little burst on the finish that then kind of disappears again. And mixed through all that, there's, plenty of vanilla and a good bit of drying oat, which sort of rounds the whole experience out pretty nicely. And it's one that's really good for me. But as I thought on the nose, for someone that likes grain, I think this is one that they'll love. For someone that doesn't like grain and actively avoids it, it's probably something they'll not like. And it's not, it's not the perfect crossover whiskey to give to a malt lover to get them into grain. It's a very grainy grain, if that makes sense. It does everything to me a grain whiskey should do. It doesn't do everything a malt whiskey should do. And so it's a bit of an odd one, but it's really pleasant. It's really easy drinking. It's good drinking whiskey. And when you can get something in the cupboard that's older than you, particularly when your number of years starts with a 3, that becomes fairly expensive. And again, I couldn't afford to buy malt whiskey this old. But having a grain whiskey that is and always will be older than I am, or certainly was put into wood before I was born, let's say, is a great thing to have. And it's one thing that if you don't hate grain whiskey, I would certainly advise everyone to have a little look into, because there are some absolute corkers out there. If you pick a good independent bottler, which Woodrows of Edinburgh, clearly, look them up online, they've got a great name, they clearly are one. If you're picking something from a good, well-respected independent bottler, they're not going to bottle rubbish because their name depends on it. So find something, and even if you're talking in the 40s, it's only if you get into the 50s they start getting expensive. But try and find something that's that old, because it's a cool experience. And this one in particular tastes good. It's not the best whiskey I own. It's not the best whiskey I bought on Islay. Probably not even the best grain whiskey I bought on Islay. But it's a really good bottle of whiskey. Got a great age. It's cool that it went into wood before I was born. And for under £100, I'm happy with my purchase. But yeah, I think that's about where we'll leave it for today. Firstly, I'd just like to thank you all so much for joining me here. The fact that you take time out of your day to spend a bit of it with myself really does mean the world to me. If you've really enjoyed the video, please do consider hitting that like button down below. It means a lot and boosts the video for me. If you've got any thoughts and opinions on this particular bottle, anything else from Cambus, any other grain distilleries you think I should be getting involved with, drop them in the comments below. I'll be sure to get back to you. And if you've really enjoyed the video, please do consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you're informed next time that I post. It really does mean the world to me. But other than that, until the next time, I'd just like to say cheers, sláinte, and I'll see you again.